okay to get started?
Absolutely.
Awesome. So, hey everyone, thank you so much for joining us tonight on the webinar. We are so excited to have Christopher Terry here. He is a regional marketing manager for Federated Insurance companies, where he oversees the district marketing managers and marketing representatives in the states of Delaware, Kentucky, Maryland, Ohio, Virginia, and West Virginia. So I'm gonna just hand it over to him, but just so you guys know, anytime throughout the presentation, if you have any questions, please just put them in the chat. I'm going to curate them all, and then at the end we'll have a question and answer session, or I might just interrupt him as we go. We'll see how we're feeling. So without further ado, I'm going to turn off my camera. Thank you so much, Christopher, for being here, and we'll get started.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Kristen, for having me, and thank you for those of you showing up this evening. Now, I've got a couple of disclaimers I'll throw out here first, okay? First of all, I've only worked for Federated Insurance, so you're going to listen to someone this evening that literally has worked for the same company for 23 years. So I'm going to be a little biased in what I say, but I think it also adds a lot of relevance as well. And the second thing is I love what I do and I love who I work for. So hopefully, again, throughout this presentation, you'll have the chance to see what I'm talking about. So this evening, let's kind of go through what it is I'm going to focus on. I'll spend a good bit of time to start with talking about sales and sales as a career and what that foundation looks like, right? And then we'll get into how do you market yourself? How do you make yourself memorable as a college student, right? You've got a short window, so to speak, of experience. And so how can we maximize that? So we'll talk about some resumes. I've got some sample ones to go through with you, as well as some tips on making those resumes fantastic, as well as interview skills, right? You want to maximize your time when you're in front of someone, as well as we'll talk a little bit about what the 2% mindset looks like, okay? You can ask me anything you want to ask me, again, whether it be interrupting throughout or at the end. So again, looking forward to this. And so again, thanks for joining us this evening. And again, congratulations on considering sales as a career. Like I said, this is literally what I have done my entire adult life and even before, where jobs I had were all involved in some aspect of sales. Now, what I'll say to that when we talk about selling is that no matter what career path you take, there will always be some sort of sales aspect to it, okay? So the way I look at it is we sell every day. I'm trying to convince someone of my point of view, or someone's trying to convince me of their point of view, and sometimes their title might outrank mine, and so then, okay, fine, I'm going to listen and we're going to move on. But ultimately, people are always buying and selling. That's just the nature of how we communicate, right? So when I think about it from a college perspective, your professor gives you a question, right? And they say, hey, give me your thoughts on this, this, and this, and that they've talked about in class and during that semester. They don't want you to literally regurgitate, or I hope they don't, regurgitate exactly what they've taught you. Hopefully, it's more along the lines of, all right, here's the question, what's your interpretation of that answer? And tell me why your line of thinking is correct and back that up, right? I mean, that's literally what professors are trying to develop you to do, is to hone those skills to make your argument as best as it possibly can be, right? Well, let's transfer that to the business world. Again, you're always going to be selling either your product, your service, your idea, and that it's going to be the best fit for those people, right? In the right solution to their problem, okay? And even if, again, you don't go into sales, a fundamental aspect of convincing people of your point of view is, look, at some point, you're going to want to make more money at what you do. And if it's not performance based as far as going out and earning more and making commissions and things like that, you're going to ask for a raise. And so you need to be able to articulate why you feel like you deserve one and what your accomplishments are. And you know, certainly I'll tell you that your accomplishments should speak for themselves, but sometimes you got to have a loud voice so that people can hear you when it comes to those. All right. And I think that's pretty fundamental, but it makes sense. And the other fundamental part of sales, right, is you got to be great at building relationships if you want to have a really successful long-term career. And again, at the base level, people have to like you. They really do. You got to be good at making friends. If they don't like you, they're not going to buy from you if they've got a choice to go somewhere else. Okay. Now we're losing a little bit of that in our consumer marketplace, right? We buy more and more things online. You know really what you want. You see a couple of options and maybe you pick the cheapest price, or maybe you take something from a recommendation of someone, right? But that recommendation you got was someone that you liked and someone that you respected. And if you think about, when was the last time that you made, in your mind, a significant purchase? Okay, so I'm not going to put a dollar amount on that. You can decide it, where you actually met with a salesperson. I promise you, if you did not like that person, you didn't buy. I mean, I do that all the time, in the sense of, I want to be sold to. I want someone to do a nice job. I'm a pretty easy sale. I'm going to tell you what I want, and you're going to work with me there a little bit, but ultimately you've got to like that person selling to you, because if you don't, you're not going to have a great experience, and ultimately it's likely you're not going to buy. Okay. All right. So hang with me here these next couple of slides. I'm going to do a little bit of classroom work, and this is also to assure you that what you're learning in college, and specifically when you think about your sales classes, they are absolutely applicable when you get into the business world. Okay, I promise you that. So I can remember back to taking certain courses in college thinking, yeah, there's no way, this is, forget it. But stick with me here, okay? And so I'm going to take real quick the entire sales cultivation loop, and I'm going to boil it down to a few basic steps, okay? And that's, you got to be able to get in the door to a place. And when I say gain access, I'm saying getting in front of the person that's the decision maker, okay? You've got to be able to do that when we're thinking about taking that prospect to a client. You've got to build trust. You got to get them to like you. And then once you get them to like you, you got a better shot at them trusting you. And then as you identify needs and figure out maybe the best ways that you can help, you can show that you're smart at what you do, okay? And then ultimately, you're able to solve their problems. Now you're saying, okay, look, I get it. It's pretty basic and pretty straightforward. And yes, it is. But this is also how sales work. And it works in this order, okay? So I'm going to go a step further. And then how do we get good from a cultivation loop? And I would say that there are really three ways that happens. And I think the best salespeople are ones that are very observant. They ask really good questions and they listen, okay? And specifically what I'm talking about there is being observant, obviously to that person that you're speaking to, but get a good sense of what's around you. We're talking about a level of emotional intelligence and asking questions that would be important to that business owner or that decision maker. Why are you looking to make this purchase? What are things you like about it? And then ultimately listening to what they say. And when I say listening, what I'm talking about is ultimately not thinking what you're going to say next, but more listening to them. And the best way to do that is actually to repeat back what they're saying, right? So they go through, I'm interested in this, and you can come and say, well, so if I understand you correctly, you're saying, and repeat it back. And the reason why that's such a good technique is because what happens then is that they get to further explain, or maybe better explain, what it is they're looking for, and it gives you more time to think. But it does something else too. It does something else really, really at the base level of trust. So what I'd say is, when you think about who your best friend is, okay, I'm going to suggest that when you think about who talks more in that relationship, do you talk more to your best friend, or does that person talk more to you? And where I'm going with this is, typically the people that we consider our closest, right, are ones that are good listeners. We like them. We like to talk, but we like to feel like we're being listened to, okay? And that really gets to the root of sales. If somebody feels like you're genuine and you care about them, they're more willing to open up, and they're more willing to build that better level of trust, starting with they like you. And why do they like you? Because you're asking questions about them, okay? Because when you do that and you show that you're smart, then you're being bought into a little bit more. But if you don't have trust and you show that you're smart, well, you're a Mr. or Miss Know-it-all, and they see you as a jerk. I mean, that's really how it works, right? You don't have a foundation of trust, and you come in showing that you know all the right answers, they're not going to buy from you. They're going to go back to who they're currently buying from, saying, hey, I got this Yahoo talking to me. They're saying a bunch of things. They sound kind of smart, but I don't know. What do you think? And then you didn't get that sale, right? So you show that level of trust, and then you show that you're pretty smart at what you're talking about, and then you're able to best show how you can benefit them. All right. And again, I may sound elementary here, but it really is important to look at sales that way. Okay. You can't jump to the end and show benefits first without establishing some kind of trust. And you can't show that you're really smart and you can help them in all these great ways if they don't like you. Okay. All right. Got a few more slides on this. So continue to bear with me here. Because again, like I've said, the first and most important step as far as building that quality relationship is building it based off trust. And again, how do you do that? Be open, communicate effectively, and listen actively, like I just mentioned, right? Ask them questions back to make sure you further understand them, but not just that, make sure you really get a good sense of what they want to accomplish, okay? And this is pretty basic, but be reliable, right? Do what you say you're going to do. It's a real easy way to work towards that trusting relationship. Show appreciation, again, something very simple and very controllable, but say thank you, okay? We don't do it enough. We don't say thanks enough, and people want to hear that. People want to feel appreciated. And the last thing I'd say there is be honest, and that may go without saying, but if you're honest, you never have to remember what you said, right? Because you always told the truth. So kind of wrapping this part of the presentation up, I'd simply say that trust occurs when there's an alignment between what you say, right, those words, and then what you do, your actions. And it's when people have confidence ultimately after you've shown that in your integrity and motives. And, you know, I don't care how talented you are, ultimately your character is a choice, and it's something that you got to hold dear. And in sales, you'll be in some odd situations, okay, where maybe you can compromise your character. Don't do it. It'll stick with you. You'll get found out, and it's just not worth it. Okay, do it the right way. Build a great cultivation loop. Build a great level of trust, and you'll be pleased with your accomplishments. Okay. All right. So let's move on a little bit. And what I'd say, in order to have a successful career in sales, I'm going to give you the 5 characteristics or the 5 attributes that I think are necessary. Okay. And bear with me here. I think you'll like it and can really identify. So the first thing I'd say is you got to have impact. You got to have intelligence, a great work ethic. You got to be competitive, and you've got to have leadership ability. Okay, so let me explain those a little bit further. The first is impact. So when I say impact, what do you think? Well, I would tell you it's how you make someone feel. It's your presence. It's, are you memorable? Are people going to remember you after you left? Okay, and ultimately, are they happy to see you? Did you have a positive impact? People can have negative impacts, and that's no good. It's not what we're going for. But are people genuinely happy to see you? Do you have that kind of impact? And when I say, are you fun or boring, I'm not talking about we're making balloon animals and riding unicycles here as far as fun. I'm just saying, are you someone that's gregarious, enjoys others, and has that kind of impact, right? Or are you someone that's sort of off your own, doing your own thing, and not very interactive? Okay, it's about being confident, genuine, caring. And then it's also how you look. And I'm not talking about GQ smooth here, but I'm saying, do you portray, right, and how you look in your appearance, a positive impact? And again, that's something that's very controllable. So I'm not saying you've got to look like you're the most wealthy in the room, perhaps. But what I am saying is you need to look like you have presence and you're able to do that. And not just how you dress, but how you carry yourself, right? Okay, next one, intelligence. Now, folks, I'm not talking about a 2.0 and I'm not talking about a 4.0. Literally, in my mind, intelligence is your ability to learn and apply concepts, okay? So I'd say it like this. I'm going to tell you what to do. I'm going to show you how to do it. I'm going to do it with you. Then I'm going to watch you do it and give you feedback. And then I expect you to do it on your own. Okay. So that's really kind of that step-by-step process. If I throw you a bunch of books and say, hey, good luck, figure it out, not only am I not gauging your real level of intelligence, I haven't ever really showed you how to do anything. Okay. And not just that, it's not just the showing and telling, but I'd say it's the next level of taking what you've learned and being able to explain those concepts. Okay, so if you understand something, but yet you can't explain it back in some pretty basic terms that are relatable, you don't really get it. Okay, and that'll be hard. So ultimately, it's taking what you've learned and apply it. And again, along those lines, it's how you communicate both verbally and non-verbally, right? So reading the room, watching body language, things like that, right? Showing a level of emotional intelligence. Okay. All right. Next one, work ethic. Here's the deal. I can't teach a work ethic. At this point in your life, you either have it or you don't, right? You've picked up what work ethic means and how to act that way, or how to show that you've got great work ethic through your actions, basically for many, many years at this point, right? Now, one thing I can do though, is I can help you with how effective and how efficient you are with your time management ability to really maximize your work ethic, right? So I can help you there. I can help adjust days and calendars to put you in the best position to win, but I can't teach you to stay up early. I can't teach you to stay up late, to have to prepare for a presentation or to learn more, to do some self-study. I can't necessarily force that. You've got to want to do that. And this is where I'd say, do you really stand out here? And when I call references, will they agree to that? Folks, this is literally the easiest characteristic to take complete control over. And what I would tell you is this: no matter what job you have now, or which one you'll have in the future, or ones for that matter, do it the absolute best. Be the first one in the office, okay? Everyone knows who the first person is, or the first one into work. Everyone knows who the first one is. They never know who the last one to leave is, because everybody's gone, right? Be the first person in. That's controllable. Your effort you put forth, that's controllable, okay? So make an effort to do that. It's silly not to, right? Okay, competitiveness. Now, maybe we've got all kinds of ideas on what competitiveness is, and I'd say it's more than wanting to win. I would say it's hating to lose. But let me take that a step further, because I'm not talking about flipping desks over when things don't go your way and throwing chairs and stuff like that. Okay, so what I'd say is, when things don't go your way, what will you do to get a different outcome the next time, right? So to give you an easy sports analogy, a baseball player that's batting 300, they got on base because of a hit 3 of 10 times, and that means 7 of 10 times they didn't, right? So what are you going to do different to try and get on base next time? Folks, ultimately the job is called sales, right? Things aren't always going to go your way. So if you've got, number one, a pretty full pipeline of opportunities, you'll be able to get over that loss a little faster. But it is important that you take time to pay attention to, okay, what can I do different next time to get a different result, and ask for help. It's important that you do that with other successful people or your boss to help you continue to grow. Don't do it on your own. It'll take longer for you to develop that way. Okay. And then ultimately, like I said, how will you adjust and be a problem solver there, but incorporate other people to help, right? Believe me, again, if the job was called picking up checks instead of sales, and you got to check on every single deal, the line would be out the door, right? Trying to get that opportunity. All right, last one is this, and it's leadership ability. And I think that this is something else that is a little bit more in your control than maybe you've thought. And really just, do you take on leadership roles? And I'm talking about whether it be in the classroom and whatever work you do, in athletics or in organizations you're a part of, whether that's an elected position, right, by your peers, or a boss appointed you, right, or a coach appointed you. That's okay too, right? But really, this is kind of how you separate yourself from the masses. So another way to look at it is, are you willing to take on more, or are you given more? Now, there's a difference. I can give all kinds of work to somebody that I know is reliable and can get the job done. So I'll pile that person's plate. Doesn't mean I think they're a leader, right? It just means that I know that they can get it done and get it done in a timely manner, right? So when I'm saying, are you willing to take on more? Are you willing to step up and say, gosh, you know what? This organization or this club or this team, it needs this, this, and this. I'm going to make an effort to try and make a difference here. That's what I'm talking about. Or another way to say it is, I don't really care what organizations you're a member of. I care what you've done in those organizations, right? So I'm looking for more quality here, perhaps, as a way to say that, than quantity. And I hope that makes sense, okay? And ultimately, do people follow you? And I'm not talking like a Pied Piper type deal, but are you influential, right? Do people believe in what you say, believe in your vision, and you have influence, right? And people want to follow you, and they like being with you, and they like being part of that ultimate goal and part of that team, okay? All right, so let's help you a little bit, and we'll have some fun with this on making yourself memorable in your career search. And let's start with resumes. And what I'd say is, does your resume tell your story? And it's incredibly important that it does, because ultimately, what's the goal of your resume? The goal of your resume is to get an interview, right? And so when you look at it that way and you look at your resume, do you look like someone worth interviewing? Okay. All right. So let's jump into this a little bit, and we'll have some fun. And yes, I know that it's difficult to see this resume. All right. Yeah. So if I go here, and this is a 2-pager, by the way, and this is the real resume. It came to my desk, and I got this page and I got this page. Guys, what's going on here? This is when I say that I want a resume to tell a story, I got to be honest. I can't even read this. This is like somebody wrote in font number 6. And look, J.K. Rowling writes books, okay? And when I say, does your resume tell a story? This is nuts. This is like some kind of autobiography that we're trying to get on 2 pages, all right? This is no good. Now, maybe this person is outstanding in what they're looking to do, and I see some high GPAs there. Okay, great. But listen, for what I'm looking for, if you can't articulate yourself a little bit better than this, this is nuts. Honestly, when I looked at this the first time, like, I felt like if I stared at it long enough, maybe some kind of like 3D inanimate object would jump out at me like a T-Rex. And I don't know. This is a little nuts and a little overkill. If you've got a lot to say, great. Get an interview and say it. Don't say it all on paper necessarily, okay? All right. Let's move on a little bit. And I'm going to show you another resume here. And I got to tell you, when I first saw this, I really felt like I was having like nightmares come to life. I mean, this is my nightmare as far as being back in a college classroom taking a Scantron test. Okay, like this is nuts to me. What's going on? So we've got, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 categories here on the left talking about skills. All right. And we've got our little, Scantron deal here of like, bad to great. How about the fact that of these 8 characteristics, there's only one that this person is saying that they're real awesome at, okay? And then, like, You look at the one that they say that they're the worst, that's quality assurance. What? So you're telling me that you're average at doing a great job, doing a quality job. What? I don't know. I really, this is not good. And then above quality assurance, what does that say? Like, that's a made up word. Workamajig. What does that even mean? And you gave yourself pretty good at a made up word. I'm sorry. I have a tough time with this. And again, we're not talking to this person. If we've got to use Scantron sheets here to try and get in front of somebody, this is the wrong organization. All right. Okay. So we're going to look at another resume here, and I've intended it is 2 pages. It came to me as 1 page, but I made it 2 so that we can actually read it. And here's one from someone that is from the University of Toledo. Okay. And I'll start off with this. So you see up top where it says objective, and I'll tell you this, I don't really care if you put an objective or not. Your objective is to try and get an interview, to try and get a job. That's your objective, right? Well, what I'd say is, in this circumstance, if you're going to put one, it's pretty smart to actually put the position that you're applying for and the company that you're applying with, right? I'll fall for that a little bit, okay? So again, nice job. Hey, this is the school that I'm going to. You know, I'm part of the honors college. Here's my GPA. I'll hit on GPA here in a little bit. Here's your major. All right. So let's dig into this a little bit. Work experience. This person had a internship, okay, as a sales rep. First bullet under 3M, conducted 130 field sales calls. I don't know if that's good. I don't know if that's bad. I just know that it was 130. All right. Next bullet, generated upwards of 10 grand worth of LED lighting quotes with 3,000 closed during the first 5 weeks out in the field, or the only 5 weeks, excuse me, out in the field. Well, I don't know if that's good or bad. It sounds like, from how it's being presented, that it's good. Okay. Now, it's something I would ask about. Now, moving on to another internship that was done during the summer. Made 200 sales calls this is under Tenneco, the first bullet. Made 200 sales calls to new and existing accounts. Okay. Again, I don't know if that's good. I don't know if that's bad. So anyway, I mean, and they kept a log of what they did and spent some time with customers. Okay, I get it. AA Solutions sales team leader. Now, what I do like here, if you look over on the right, you can see, and again, when I saw this was in 2016, by the way. So when it says to present, that would have been 2016. So I see that someone has done something for 3 years, and they've done it through school, okay? And so they're a team leader, and the third bullet down says make a minimum of 25 cold calls. Okay. Again, don't know if that's good or bad, but we have a number to work with here. And the last thing there on the first page, this was the summer between this individual's freshman and sophomore year of college, and they sold just under $8,800 for the around campus group, closed 12 accounts. Again, I don't know if that's good or bad, but again, at least it's a number, and it's something for me to follow up on. Looking at the next page, person spent time at Sherwin-Williams, and when you look over on the right, you can see that it was more than just an internship, that they were there for a while, okay? And then underneath that, hey, how about this? We got a little PSE action going. And I like that the individual says, hey, you know what? I was president of it, okay? And these are the things I did when I was president. And then underneath that, where it says honors, awards, and skills, I see a lot of number 1s. I see some 2s, that kind of stuff. So where I'm going with this is, when I look at this resume, do I call this person for an interview? And absolutely. Okay, so I see some numbers there. I see things worth following up on that this person has done that are sales related. GPA looks okay. I'll tell you, I'm going to ask for transcripts, so don't make up your GPA. But then when I see leadership roles, real briefly on a resume, then yeah, absolutely, it's worth following up on and talking to this individual. Okay. All right. Let me give you another resume. And here is another PSC student. Okay. Oh, actually, I gave that away. Sorry. You'll see it on the next page. Now we've got an objective and they want a full-time position and they're going to build positive relationships and they're going to make some sales and grow accounts. Okay, fine. You know, what are you going to say? The opposite of that? I mean, come on. I don't know. I'm not real bold on objectives here. But education, if you look at the difference between this resume and the previous one, they put GPA a little bit higher, says 3.0. I'll tell you this. If I look at a resume and it has the GPA on it and it says 3.0, this is literally what I will ask. I will say, okay, 3.0, great. Is that a 3.2 3.0 or is that a 2.8 3.0? And well, you know, you'd be surprised how many people say, well, you know, a little bit closer to 2.8. And I'll say, hey, that's no problem. Is that like a 2.6 2.8 or like a 2.4 2.8? Right? So again, don't fudge something that I can get the real answer to. That's not good. Don't fudge anything at all. But anyway, so 3.0 for the person who got a 3.0. I'll get off that. Okay. All right. So let's look. This again, we're dealing with a December 2015 graduation date. Okay. So I'm interviewing the person in 2015. I see that they had a job or an internship in wholesale sales distribution from May up until when we interviewed them. I don't really know what they did there other than they said they had a sales job. So maybe throw a little bit more in on that. AA Solutions, they did the job for, looks like about 4 months, sold some stuff. Okay, but I don't know anything else about it. Now, here's where it gets pretty good when you get down to the Sherwin-Williams company. So far, I'll tell you, I'm not real impressed. All right. But you get down to the second bullet underneath Sherwin-Williams, and it says, you know, look, I was put in a store. I'm going to do a 1-week sale. And part of this competition, you got to see who can generate the most revenue. Our store finished number 1 out of 23. All right, that's pretty good. And I'm going to ask, okay, well, what role did you play in that? But that's good. And the last bullet there, I think, is great. Hey, competed in a 1-month sales competition, and ultimately I finished 4th out of 50. Now, it's hard to grab those numbers because they're not bold and they don't stick out. But I'll take a 4 out of 50. I'll take someone that finished in the top 10%. I think that's pretty good. I mean, that's sales, right? Then let's get to the next page, and here's the PSE that I mentioned. They talk about how sweet the chapter is, and that's great. But then when I look at this part, director of sales, and I look at the second bullet, you know, was responsible for the most profitable year in the history of the organization, generating over 20 grand in revenue and 14,000 of profit. Yeah, I mean, that alone, I will interview the person. Okay. And then you look at the next bullet, project manager for the first annual PSE networking golf outing, $12,200 in revenue, made a profit of just over $10,000, largest sales project ever. And then individually sold sponsorship packages to 14 companies, 54 students, brought in total of 24 recruiters, giving all students opportunities for internships and full-time positions. Listen, you got me there. So I would say this, that alone, that section on what this individual did at PSE, I will absolutely interview that person. Okay. So when I say, does your resume tell your story? This one is telling me a story. Okay. I'm not even looking down at the bottom at the honors and awards, but I will tell you, it's pretty savvy to say finalist, because if you were first, you would have said number 1. So this person never came in first, but they were a finalist and that they were a runner up. And I don't know. I like how that sounds. Okay. Now I'm going to let the cat out of the bag here and let you know that I hired both of these resumes, both of these individuals, and they started 6 months apart at Federated. They were actually college roommates, as crazy as that is. And I'll tell you this, the resume you're looking at now, this individual last year for our company W-2'd $191,992. That resume before I just showed you was $191,728, literally a $264 difference between those two individuals that went to the same school, in the same business fraternity, sales fraternity, right? And roommates. I don't know. That's nuts. But goodness, I like the product that PSE puts out, right? Okay. Let me show you another resume and work through this one with you a little bit. Different kind of setup here. Starting out, Shepherd University is a small school in West Virginia. And listen, coming right out the bat, recreation and leisure studies majors, concentration in sports marketing, and then a minor in business administration. So I'll tell you now, I don't really care what your major is. It doesn't matter to me. You can be a biology major for all I care. But what I care about are those 5 characteristics: impact, intelligence, work ethic, competitiveness, and leadership ability. That's really what I'm looking for. And now, certainly, taking sales classes and having sales experience helps, right, when you're applying for a sales job. But, understand that you don't feel like you're pigeonholed, okay? So I'm looking at this, and I like that at the start of this up top, we got honors and activity, Dean's List, and you see above that a 3.81 GPA. The chances of that being accurate, I'm saying, are pretty high if you're going to be that specific. So Dean's List, and then we see Greek Man of the Year. Now, I'm going to be honest with you. I don't know what that means. Time Magazine has never called me up to be their Person of the Year, and I can promise you, People Magazine has never called me up to ask me to be the sexiest man alive and splash me on the cover either, okay? So if I see someone that's a Man or Woman of a Year, okay, that's pretty impressive. I'll ask about that. And then when I see that they're a member of honor societies, and you got an outstanding academic achievement award, that's pretty good, okay? So let's look a little bit farther down. And again, this is one page that I've split into 2 for you. But I'm looking at work experience, and again, had an internship in the athletic department, like that they were an intramural coordinator. And really, this looks like about over 3-year period. That's pretty good. I like seeing that kind of longevity. And then I look at this, Relay for Life. And what did I say before? I don't care what organizations you're a part of, but I care what you did in it. So he says that he was in charge of creating and executing the entertainment aspect of a 12-hour event. Okay, I'll ask more about that. And then I see that this individual is president of their fraternity. I think that's pretty good. Then I see that they're an orientation leader in school. And then how about this, right? Person worked at a grocery store for over 5 years. Sure, started off as sweeping up floors as a bagger, and then ultimately works their way to the point where, it says that they've managed and trained 15 cashiers. Let's go. This is fantastic. I've got no problem interviewing this person. In fact, when I see this resume, I want to interview this person. So when we talk about jobs, it's not about the glamour of the name of who you worked for. It's what you did, like I said, when you were there and you worked for them. I love this shows loyalty. This shows commitment. This shows perhaps perseverance. Because again, I sell insurance. That's not the most glamorous sounding job, but it's unbelievably rewarding, right? Both intrinsically and how I feel because of what I do and how I can treat others, and as well as on the monetary side as well. Okay. So again, great resume. All right, I got one more for you. Thanks for working with me here. And so I'm looking at this resume, and when I first see it, listen, I don't know what's going on here. I mean, are we? This is like Lion King stuff. What kind of graphics are going on here? This is not good. I mean, if I had a cat with me, I'd throw the thing up in the air right now, not holding it, right? But I mean, get a little Simba action going. And it's actually 2 pages. Like, this is for real 2 pages. I didn't just split it between 2. So again, what's going on here? Now, it just so happened that the very first thing that's mentioned under experience, it says exceeded sales quota 16 of 19 times. That got my attention, and that kept me from laughing hysterically, saying Hakuna Matata, and throwing this thing away, okay? Now, it actually also happens that I met this individual early on in the interview process. And as I spoke with her, I let her know, look, if I see you again throughout this interview process, let's tighten up this resume. And I gave her some tips, which I'll share with you here in just a moment. And let me show you the resume that she brought to the final interview, okay? And again, I've split this into 2 pages for you. So you got that objective deal, which I told you kind of irritates me, but whatever. But then I see, okay, here's my education, here's my major, here's my GPA. And what about this? Responsible for 50% of tuition. I love it. I love that this person put down work 30 to 35 hours a week while enrolled full-time in college. I absolutely love that. What that tells me is this is someone that's a hard worker, that they're not going to school for any other reason. They're not doing it for their parents or because it was some person's wish that they go and then they didn't perform. This is someone that wants to be at school, is coming out of school with debt. And look, I like it when you come out of school with debt. You gotta make money to pay that debt off, right? So I love that. And then under experience, this person was selling T-shirts literally for a company called Logo Nation, exceeded sales quota 16 of 19 times. And this person was doing such a nice job that they trained 2 new hires within the first 3 months of working at this job. And then how about helping out customers, right? So typically the production time is about 3 months on that sales cycle. Well, she was able to get that drop down to 2 months. Well, that's incredibly impressive from a percentage standpoint. And then when you think about it, how much more that person can be able to sell and get that product back out faster. Absolutely love it. And then you've got some experience in here doing home loans for a while, again, making money while they're in school. And what about this? Working at Red Robin from 2014 until this past January. Started off as a hostess, then to a server, to a head bartender, put down accomplishments. Hey, quantified it, 25 new hires. I got employee of the month a handful of times. I won a bunch of sales competitions based off customer satisfaction scores, created a particular plan that people would work as far as what their schedules would be for the most opportune hours, right? To when you're going to get the most tips. Well, she created a schedule and a grid and a matrix based off of accomplishments and things like that that's still in use at this location today. What about this? You know, we don't have like honors and achievements and all of that other than let's just go. Competition. Competed in over 30 motocross races and had a top 3 finish 24 times. Won a series championship in women's class for 2 years in a row. And you know what? Gender doesn't matter. Won a series championship in the men's C class. This is awesome. And we absolutely hired this person. She'll start in a couple of weeks. The resume I showed you before, the Greek Man of the Year, we hired that person who's wrapping up our training program right now and getting ready to take a sales territory. And I couldn't be happier. And again, in the examples I've given you, do these resumes tell a story? And I think they do. Okay. So let me articulate that for you. All right. Let me bullet that out a little bit. Definitely put your GPA. If you don't put your GPA on a resume, I'm going to assume that it's either bad or you think it's bad. Now, you can be savvy, and I'll let you know that NASA wasn't knocking on my door when I was coming out of college, okay? So I definitely put down what my major GPA was, that I was a 3.3 in my areas of concentration, okay, for my major. Overall, what wasn't as high, all right? This isn't about me, it's about you, so we're going to stop there on that, all right? But do a good working timeline. I shouldn't have to try and figure your resume out and flip through pages to try and figure out when you did what. Keep that a pretty even timeline as far as that goes. Obviously, put down college and community activities that you were involved in, but what you did, right? Quantify it for me with how you spent that time. Obviously, stress those leadership roles. Like I said before, if you're financing part of school yourself, please put that in there. I want to know that. Now, it's not to say that if you, okay, hang on. When I say financing school, I would say this. If you had a scholarship, if you got grants, any kind of free money or money that you've had to borrow from the government, I consider that self-financing, all right? Anything else, like mom and dad paid for it, well then mom and dad paid for it, all right? So that's what I mean by that. And I don't look any different necessarily if someone else paid your tuition, that's great. then I hope you really excelled in college when you're using someone else's dime. I paid for 50% of my college. I would tell you it got me up for every 8 a.m. class, but not all the time. But anyway, I certainly had a debt to work off when I got out of school. Again, quantify those work accomplishments. Spell it out for me. Don't just say, I am a fantastic organizer. That tells me nothing, right? Articulate it. Don't tell me that, you did well in competitions. Don't be generic. Be very specific, okay? And make yourself so that I want to actually talk to you, okay? And I would say this, and this might go a little bit against maybe what you've heard before, but because you've got such a finite amount of time that we're working with, if you've got fantastic high school awards, or if you had leadership roles, if you were captain of teams or won awards in organizations or scholarships or any of that stuff, put that down. That's fine. Again, it's unfair of me to say I only care about the 4 years that you've been in college, or maybe 5 or 6 or what have you, right? It's unfair of me to only do that when maybe you had some other accomplishments that are worth sharing. So again, I'm not saying we got half the page of high school awards. I mean, we don't need to do but so many glory days here, right? But let's put some down if they're worth mentioning. And this is fun too. The amount of resumes I look at that list college courses taken. Who cares? If you're a finance major, I sort of expected you to take some finance classes, right? You're a marketing major, you took marketing classes. Now, if you're applying for a job where a particular course you had to take was hard to get into and you did fantastic, and it's important to that job, right, to that interviewer, to know that you took a particular class, then obviously list it. Otherwise, as far as I'm concerned, you fill in space because you got nothing else important to say, okay? So be cognizant of that. As far as interviewing, a couple of things, again, dress smartly. And when I say smartly, all I'm simply saying is let's look like you didn't sleep in your clothes, is what I'm saying. I'm not expecting a fancy suit or super fancy outfit, but look like you groom yourself and take care of yourself a little bit. I'd also say this, ask thoughtful questions. Now, a lot of times, you go into an interview and you think that I'm going to be the one asking all the questions. Well, I will if you let me, but don't ask questions back to that person. You'd be surprised at what those answers are. And you, believe me, you want to know those answers. It's more important that you go into a job knowing everything you can know about it, not just excited because they give you a yes, we'd love to hire you. Well, just because they want to hire you, do you want to work there? So I'd start with this. Ask this question of the person interviewing you. How would you describe your company's culture? And man, how relevant is that question today with everything going on, right? You guys are all home right now. I've got a college student at home right now. She's beside herself. She'd rather be at college. But when you think about going to work for a company right now, how has that company reacted? I know a lot of organizations right now, you probably do too, that have had to let their salespeople go or furloughed them, right? Which is a fancy way of saying, hey, we got your benefits, you'll be okay, you can keep those, but you're not going to make any money and you can't collect unemployment, right? Or maybe companies have stopped paying bonuses. Maybe they've stopped promotions. Maybe they've cut back or stopped matching on benefits like 401ks. Told you to start, I'm a little biased. I'm proud to say that I work for a company where my name's gone as the signature of congratulations to folks of recent that have gotten 5-figure bonuses. We've had promotions. We, as an organization, and I wouldn't expect you to know this, but we made an announcement this week to all of our, and we sell business insurance, but to our business insurance clients, that we're going to give them 15% back on their business auto policy. So on part of their insurance over a 3-month time span. Folks, there's no other insurance company that does what we do that has done that to this level at this point. We don't have to do it, but it's the right thing to do. And it makes me proud to work for the company I work for. If you ask me to describe our company's culture, I'll say it's the number one reason why I stay. 23 years, that's why, okay? What about this? Ask this question on a positive note. How long have you worked here, and what do you like most about why you work there? And then throw this in there. as you get them talking, right? Because if you ask questions back, what did I say to start as far as building trust? Those people that can talk, if you get them talking, they're going to like you because you're showing that you're genuine and you want to get to know them. But if there are two things that you could change about the company, what would they be? So you get to get a glimpse a little bit into that person's eyes. And then ask this, why is the job open? Why is this position open? I would say it's important for you to know that. Smile when you interview, right? And I know you're going to be nervous, but smile. And it goes without saying, but act interested. Don't interview just to interview, okay? Have good eye contact. And I say that and I smile because ultimately I don't like having a whole lot of eye contact. Straight eye contact freaks me out. I have a hard time doing it. Now, I'm not saying we sit there and we stare at somebody until we can look into their soul. That's scary, okay? But what I'm saying is when you ask someone a question, make eye contact, or as you answer that question, once you've gathered your thoughts, make eye contact, okay? Hand movements. If I was doing this in person, like I was scheduled to, and like you all would have rather seen me in Norfolk at the National Convention, at this point, you would have thought that I've made 83 pizzas because I talk with my hands and I'm moving around and all that kind of stuff, okay? But just watch it, that it's not going to be distracting, okay? Don't move your hands to the point that we're karate chopping things, right? Let's keep this thing relatively civil and not hurt folks. Watch for nervous tics. So when I'm seated, my right leg, I bounce it. It's very relaxing to me, and it's almost catatonic, right? That I don't even know I'm doing it at times, but I know that I do it. So if I've got a business meeting, I will put my feet down and I will make sure that my heels are on the ground because I know I'm going to bounce my leg and it's distracting to others. And folks, you got to ask closing questions. And what you all have learned in your sales competitions are things like whether it's moving to that next appointment, whether it's asking for that deal, asking, for the check, whatever that next step is, ask for it. Do not assume it. I don't care how well you think that interview went, you better close the deal, okay? And then ultimately, send a thank you note. Now, thank you emails are great and it's nice, and especially if I didn't give you a business card and you can figure out what my email is, I think that's pretty good. But gosh, you write me a thank you note, and that interview, let's say was average. It wasn't a great one, it was average, and you write me a thank you note, I will absolutely interview you again. I'll give you another shot, okay? It's something that not many people do, but it's definitely something that would make you memorable, okay? All right, last couple slides here. Let me get through. Ultimately, I would say connect, right? Get out there, get on LinkedIn, endorse people, recommend postings that you like. And the other thing is, do your professors and your advisors, do they know what you want to do? Have you asked them for advice? Have you asked them, gosh, these are my skill sets. These are the things I think I'd be good at. Can you help me go towards a particular career or a particular company, right? Do they know what you want? Have you explained that to them? Don't just assume that they know. Do your parents know what you want to do? Are they supportive of it? What about your friends? If someone is giving you an interview, take the meeting. Don't, believe me, if when I do career fairs and it says Federated Insurance, I get it, it's insurance. I don't have people lined up out the door trying to meet with me. But if you know what we do and you know the kind of people that we're able to help, the businesses in your communities, the millionaires that you see every day, and how at their worst possible moment, I'm there to take care of them, and I get compensated very, very well to do that, you would be lined up out the door, right? So take the interviews when someone reaches out to you. And ultimately, like I said, get involved and separate yourself in organizations every chance you can, okay? So what should you look for in a company? Training and investment versus money. And what I mean by that is, what is that company willing to invest in you? Money's great and that's important, but you got to know that the company has invested in you, that you're able to earn that money for a long period of time. Okay, and I hope that makes sense. Mentorship versus advancement opportunities. Are you going to be taught? Are you going to be trained? Is that training just a finite amount of time over a handful of weeks? I've got all kinds of people that I can talk to that have been promoted, quote unquote, whether it be in job title and get all kinds of sweet letters and names and vice president or assistant to the assistant or what have you, right? as far as advancement opportunities, but is that really advancement, right? It might feel good, but really, what are we doing, right? Or someone grooming you, or someone helping to train and develop you for long-term success. And the last thing I'd say is this, and I hit on it earlier: culture versus product. Okay, I'll just tell you, you need to care more about the culture than the product, because the culture will dictate what that product or service is. Don't look at it the other way around, because you won't stay there long and you'll be unhappy. It'll be a conversation where it'll be, gosh, you know what? I didn't realize that we really did this or they really did that. Save yourself some heartache. Okay. All right. You've been great. We're coming to a close here. So what I'd say is this: let's talk a little bit about the 2% mindset. And to do that, we got to talk about your comfort zone. Okay. And when you're in your comfort zone, there's probably some feelings of insecurity, because you're playing it safe in your comfort zone, because sometimes it's scary when you're not there. So fear is present, because perhaps you're settling for less, you're surviving, but maybe that's built on procrastination, being just like everybody else. You might have regrets and live a dull life because you're just getting by. And folks, that's 98% of the population that's out there. Okay. Now let's talk about that other 2%. And let's talk about going for your dreams and acting in spite of fear, and choosing happiness and excitement and getting the most out of life. Explore new things. Have an abundance of fulfillment. Embrace the unknown. Live without limits, and have confidence in liking change. Okay? Liking change is about new opportunities, and it's not a threat, and you can't see it that way. Literally, change gives you the opportunity to differentiate yourself and build a competitive advantage against someone else. And sure, change is uncomfortable. Anything we do different, right, is. But that doesn't make change bad. And folks, resenting and resisting change will literally make you less competitive. So don't seek protection in the comfort zone. Okay? Embrace that discomfort that real change requires, and get busy making the changes that you know you need to make. Okay? Your deepest fulfillment, I promise you, doesn't come from doing what's easy. It comes from challenging yourself, embracing that discomfort, and pushing past obstacles. It's absolutely how you grow and get better. It's how you get to the next level, and it's how you achieve your potential. I absolutely promise you that. And I'll leave you with this. One of the key differences between average performers and elite performers in any field, in anything that you do, is the willingness to endure discomfort that's required to build next level skill. So with that, thank you so much for hanging out with me for the last hour or so, and literally right at an hour. And I would say this: best of luck to you in all your future endeavors. Make yourself memorable. I'll turn this back over to Kristen. If you guys have questions, I'm happy to answer them now. I've also got my email address up here that, again, if you shoot me an email, I'll be more than happy to answer you. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, I'll move our pictures so then you guys can see his Christopher's email address. We do have a couple questions for you. When it comes to I think it's an interviewer or maybe a recruiter, should they connect with the person interviewing them before or after the interview?
I don't think it matters. I think before is great. I think if you're able to do a little bit of research on that person, that's really smart. Hey, I'm going to do research on you, right? If I can, I'm going to Google you. You might as well Google me. So I think that's fine.
Emily asks, at what point do you think it's important to have sales experience, and does it matter if it's outside sales or not?
Okay, so yes, it's important to have sales experience. And what I'd say is it depends on what you're interviewing for. So if you've got inside sales experience, that's okay if you're looking for an outside sales job. But I really want you to be able to say, these are the things that I did to drive new business, meaning one of the I shouldn't say problems, but one of the things about inside sales is those sales are coming to you. What are you doing to bring sales to you as opposed to people just walking in the door asking for something, right? That's what I would care most about when it comes to inside sales.
Okay, great. What is your favorite question you've ever been asked?
Wow. There have been a number that have stumped me. I can say anytime somebody asks me about, I've been at Federated for my entire career, what kind of impact has that had on my family? That's always a good one that'll get me to stop, because now all of a sudden you've got me thinking about, the people I care about most. And gosh, you'll get all my answers will be straightforward and candid, but you'll get a pretty good one. And anytime somebody can ask something like that, that's truly thought provoking, you'll get a good response from me, and I'll definitely remember you because of it.
Yeah, I guess along those same lines is there a question that you wish people asked you more?
Yeah, I wished, or I wish that people would ask more of, what can I expect long term in this role, and what's a realistic time frame to accomplish X, Y, and Z. I feel like, success is about working the plan, and it's that process. It's not about how fast you get there. It's about how consistent you can stay there, right? And it's that kind of question that I like to get, so I can really help people understand that, because nowadays you have people that think that just because maybe you reached or won that top sales award, then you've accomplished everything and now I'm going to move on to the next deal. Listen, you're not going to have a very fulfilling ultimate career if that's your mindset. So I would say, what are the things it takes to have that long-term success and achievement?
Great. A personal question for you. Did you always know you wanted to go into sales?
Oh, listen, absolutely. I can remember as a kid working at a pool store during the day and working on a riverboat bartending at night. And this is no joke, Hulk Hogan, I was in Tampa, Hulk Hogan walks in the pool store and I'm like, oh my gosh. And he's like, hey brother, can I have some chlorine? And I'm like giving him jugs of chlorine. And, I loved it. And when it really struck home for me was, I remember literally at that same pool store, they'd have competitions every month on who could sell the most pool cleaners. I don't know anything about them, but I sold more than anybody every month. And you've got people that did that as their full-time job. I started to feel bad and give them some of the sales. So listen, absolutely. It's just about having fun and connecting with people and enjoying those interactions. That's when you're going to get a lot of success out of no matter what you do. But yeah, I've always enjoyed interacting with people and having a good time and getting them to see things the way I'd like for them to see them.
If someone hasn't had any internship experience, how can they make up for that if they want to work for Federated?
So, I don't know. Internship's kind of a funny word. If you say you've never had a job before, how can you make up for that? Well, you go and get a job. Okay. So I'm not concerned about how fancy your 3-month internship is. What I care more about, it's sort of like when I gave the example of the young man that worked at the grocery store for 5.5 years, or the young woman that worked at Red Robin, right, and started off as hostess and worked herself up to head bartender. We don't have to necessarily work for 3M, right, to get a great job somewhere else later. So what I'd simply say is get some sales experience. When I say sales, fundamentally, it's interacting with people. It's being able to convince people of your point of view. Even when you work in restaurants, there are competitions all the time. If you can win those, that shows me that you've got that relatable ability, right, to get people to trust you. So I would say that I get kind of hung up a little bit when people say, well, what's the best internship? Listen, the best internship is what you did the best at, and you left that better than you found it. That's really how I'd say that.
I love that. I have a great last question for you.
All right. Okay.
How can I apply to work at Federated Insurance?
Here we go. So what I'd simply say is, if you want to, you've got my email address. If you want to reach out to me, I can certainly guide you in the right direction. One of the really cool things that working at Federated is we all work for and sell for the same company, right? So There are 63 sales managers around the country that work with 563 sales reps, all in their own protected sales territory. So if you get me your resume, you get me your information, I'll certainly get you to that right person to speak with.
Great. Okay, I had one last question just come in. How should I look into the benefits of a company, into the benefits the company provides versus the promised income today? 401k, pension, if applicable anymore.
Make them show it to you. I mean, it's as simple as that. Don't let somebody say, I have this, without showing you proof. And I'm serious, because if you tell me on your resume that you've done certain things, I'm going to say, show me proof. It's only fair that you do the same with me. So ask to see what that 401k is, what your investment options are if you're that in tune to it. But fundamentally at a base level, you know, how much does the company match? How does that work? You know, do I have choices on investments? How is that? How does the pension work? If the company really has those things, the person that you're interviewing with will be more than happy to show you.
So everyone, I put Christopher's email into the chat. Make sure you reach out to him, if anything, to thank him for leading this amazing webinar, but also to ask more about sales or Federated, all of it. So obviously we wish we could have seen you in Norfolk, and that would have been way better, because I heard you had some cool prizes that you were going to
go. Woo, giveaways.
Everyone loves a good giveaway, but thank you so much for giving us your time. And thank you to everyone that tuned into this webinar. We have 2 more left in the series, which are 2 more speakers that we were going to have at the convention. You can sign up for those right now at pse.org/training. And with that, good night, everyone. I hope you all have a great weekend. And thanks again, Christopher.
Yeah, thank you very much.